As I've been warning, I think you're going to get rejection at this 74,000 to 76,000 area here. Another bear flag, just like we had back over here. Rallied into resistance there, got rejection. And again, you have previous buyers desperate to get out. All the people up here are all trapped. If they're still holding a position, they're trapped in a losing position. They bought up in this area. I expect you're going to see a larger divergence develop on the RSI, larger divergence on the awesome oscillator, and I think the MACD will end up forming a divergence down here going into late March, maybe on into April somewhere. Things can take longer than we think. The Bollinger Bands tightened. I told you we can go up to the upper bands, just like we did over here, and then move in the opposite direction. Bollinger Bands tighten, you go close above these upper bands, you did it a couple of times here, you did it a couple of times here, and then you moved in the opposite direction. Here, you moved to, you got the Bollinger Bands tightening, you moved towards the upper band, and you moved in the opposite direction. You're likely going to see something very similar to that here, but I think it will create a bottom. Stochastics rolling over. I expect you'll see the MACD roll over soon here. We got some warning signs on indicators on Tuesday and Wednesday, as I told you, some momentum signals suggesting we're about to flip. Now we're seeing some of the trend signals begin to flip back to bearish. We had a red circle here showing momentum could begin to turn here, and we got one more push higher, much like what we had back over here. Again, this looks very, very similar to what we had back over here. Even the structure back over here looks very, very similar with this counter trend. But nevertheless, we are trying to flip some signals back to bearish now, and momentum signals began to turn earlier there on Tuesday and Wednesday, turning up major resistance. So again, I told you back over here when I predicted that we were going to get this rally, I told you we can go up to the 50 period and get rejection, but I told you can go all the way up to just under this 80,000 area into the lower end of the channel, the midpoint of the channel here, and still have things be bearish, still be below the 100 period moving average. So again, this is nothing more than a counter trend rally, but we are likely going to bottom with the next push down, and I think it could create an inverse head and shoulders pattern, as I talked about. I think this could be the left shoulder, and I think you could get a push down and get a V-shaped type recovery and end up setting up a inverse head and shoulders pattern. I think it is very likely. It was a head and shoulders pattern that gave us the peak. Again, we had these dead cat bounces here. The signal's still hanging in there, but again, we'll see if it changes by the close or before the weekends, Friday or going into the weekend maybe. But we had these bear flag patterns, and again, it's a continuation of this decline. And so I think, again, you're coming down to support, maybe one of these trend lines, possibly if this takes longer, deeper towards the 50% retracement near 44,000. If we break 49,000, which is this low here at key support. This is where the Bitcoin ETFs began. So there's going to be some real interest in this area coming down into it, into the low to mid 50,000 area, or reaching the 49,000 area or the high 40,000 range. This is where the ETFs began. So there's going to be some real interest in likely supporting that area. Yesterday, Bitcoin completed the 9 count. I warned you going into this earlier in the week that we could set up a 9 count the day of the Fed. We did. Again, showing price exhaustion at resistance at the 74,000 to 76,000 area. Warned you about this being a potential top, just as I warned you back on February 5th and 6th that we were going to bottom, complete a 9 count, and get a rally towards the 50 period moving average, towards these levels of resistance, and we did. We popped above the 50 period moving average, and we got a topping tail on with bar 8. Bar 8 is the high of the 9 count. Bar 9 is the reversal bar confirming the topping tail, and now we're trying to take out the 50 period moving average. Bitcoin down 2.64% as I'm making the video here on Thursday. These counts have marked points of exhaustion. Remember, I told you that at the top we only got the bar 8, but we did have one at the August peak. We did have one at the final exit point. Up here, we only got up to bar 8, and we closed below the bar from 4 bars ago, canceling the count out, but it still played out. It was still price exhaustion as we rallied into major resistance. I warned you on Tuesday and Wednesday, momentum was shifting. We got momentum signals turning on Tuesday and Wednesday. The bars changed colors here for momentum, and we got the momentum signal flipping yesterday here and the day before on other indicators. This is what happened back up at the peak after the January high with rejection at the 100 period, which I warned you that would be the case, that we'd rally up to the 100 period but get rejection there. Not move above 98,900. How many people would have the guts to tell you something like that and actually have it happen? If you look at support and resistance carefully, as we're looking at the 74 to 76,000 area carefully, you can make some absolutely incredible calls. Here, bars turned with the momentum line turning back to bearish. Other bearish momentum signals turning, the momentum line turning. Here, I'm just looking at these short-term momentum moves, but they're now playing out. They're now playing out these short-term momentum moves and flipping trending signals. Again, very similar to what we had over here, as I've talked about. Again, this signal here came at the top. Other signals came the day after the top, flipping momentum. We need to see all the signals turn back to bearish. Some are just not there yet. Others are. Others here, bars have remained red through the entire decline, not buying into this at all. Nailing the top, nailing the lower high. Here, not buying into it whatsoever. Other signals turning back to bearish are trying to, the ones that are turning today, again, they won't be final till the end of the session. Again, momentum turn here on the day at the top, and then again yesterday, warning of this boatload of momentum signals flashing Tuesday and Wednesday, and I went over some of them with you in my previous 2 updates. But some signals aren't there yet. 4-hour chart. Some signals turning bearish with the swing trend signals, others not there yet. Momentum flipped yesterday here, bars turning bearish now and getting a sell signal here, similar to what we had back up here. Other signals still hanging in there for now. And again, I think you're going to push down, and I think you're going to see massive divergences develop here with this next push lower, and I think it will create a bottom. Here we've come right to the lower end of the cloud here. I think you'll end up seeing the cloud flip very soon, as we saw it flip back over here. Back up at the top. So I'll be watching to see if before the week ends, if we start seeing all the signals revert back to bearish. Some of them are. So again, we've got a mixed bag, but we saw the reversal, momentum reversal signals now starting to flip a few. Please support the channel. Please support the channel with the link directly below. That allows me to be able to provide you this information. If you like my charts, and you will. If you like my indicators, and you will. If you find that helpful and educational, then support the channel. I don't have any sponsors. I turn those offers down. I'm not here to sell you anything. I'm here to talk to you about Bitcoin. But I need to hear from you in order to make that work. Let me know you want this information, that you find it helpful by supporting the channel. And I do that rather than getting sponsors. Most YouTube channels get sponsors. I just ask that you partner with me. Follow the link below to take you to a secured site, and you can donate any amount you want. If you could take a moment to do that, I would really appreciate it. If you have been educated by this information, please take a moment. Anything helps. You can make it a donation or a recurring donation. If you do that, I thank you. Again, look at my amazing signals. Again, absolutely incredible. Marking these shifts with momentum. You don't always get them. Didn't want to have one here at the bottom. You didn't have one here at the peak, but you have one at the top. You had it with the final exit point and the bounce. You have it here with our peak from Tuesday on March 17th. March 17th and 18th, I had a bunch of signals, momentum signals flip. Absolutely incredible signals. Again, here flipping back to bearish. Other signals aren't there yet, but I expect in the next few days we'll see all of them begin to flip back to bearish. I think we get the final flush out move. And we have the Bitcoin futures trying to get a bearish reversal of conditions. So I expected a divergence to form on the MACD and the RSI and here on the awesome oscillator here in the daily time frame. But we're trying to get this bearish reversal of conditions with Bitcoin futures. And I expect you're going to see a divergence develop. I expect you'll go into negative territory, and later in March here or on into April somewhere, you'll likely see a divergence taking out 60,000, likely going down to the mid to low 50,000 range. My guess is we're going down to 51, 52, 53,000 or so, but it's still possible we go under the key support at 49,000 as I have talked about. Now, Bitcoin's not quite there with a bearish reversal of conditions yet, but we've turned off of that high, off of key horizontal resistance as I talked about yesterday. We got a red awesome oscillator bar today in the daily time frame. We get another one here. So again, I'll be watching if we get a bearish reversal of conditions by the end of the session or possibly tomorrow. We'll see how it unfolds. Right now, Bitcoin is down 2.61%. It was lower, bouncing off of the lows just a little bit here. We have many more hours left in the session. So again, got to be looking for the same thing. Got to be looking for the awesome oscillator to go into the negative region and eventually to form a divergence here, taking out 60,000. And I think you'll see the stops are triggered. We take out this trend line right here, trend line excluding the shadow right here. And then these lows over in here. Going to trigger a bunch of stops when we do that and liquidate a bunch of folks that are over leveraged, and again eventually dropping down, taking out 60,000. The stops are just under these higher lows and just under this low right here, and the institutions are going to do a stop hunt. They're going to do a liquidity sweep, sweeping all of this liquidity down in here, pushing it down, causing all these people to sell. The shorts will pile in with new short positions, late short sellers. The longs will get stopped out, and it will create all the selling so that the institutions can buy. You have to understand that they need herd to take the opposite side of their trade, so they have to create a liquidity sweep. So we'll be watching to see if more and more signals turn bearish. Some are now turning back to bearish. We had those bearish signals over the last couple of days with momentum. Momentum was trying to flip. You got a shot in the weekly time frame that we end up forming a divergence here and still push down below 60,000, hit this key level of support down in here that I've talked about, this 49,000 to about 54, 55,000 or so, these levels here. And that's where I think you're going to bottom, and then I think you'll get a rebound back up. But you might see a divergence try to develop here over the next few weeks. And as I've said, this thing can take longer than we all think. They often do. The top took months. The bottom could take longer than we think. It could spill over into April. This could drag out longer than we all think. I think we drop into late March. Maybe it goes on into April. If it takes longer, we may go lower. This is one of my wave counts. I've recently talked about this being a possibility with wave 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5 into here or deeper into here. But we have a bear flag. I think it's wave 4 in all likelihood, or a wave B with my alternative count. And then I think you get this final flush out move, a liquidity sweep. We got warning signs that momentum was going to shift on Tuesday and Wednesday. We'll see if the trending signals, the swing trend signals, turn back to bearish. A couple of them are trying to. Others are not there yet. But I had these momentum signals flash the day of the top or the day after the top here for this counter trend. Back-to-back signals here. So if we see all the swing trend signals turn back to bearish, it's going to validate it. I got several warning signs with momentum shifting here the very day of the top as well here, just like we had back up at the top the day after the peak over here and the final exit point over here. But we got to see the trend signals, the swing trend signals now validate that, but the momentum signals flashed, and they flashed as we slammed into major resistance. And again, we had momentum signals flash on Tuesday and Wednesday here. It was finalized. Now here we're seeing bars turn back to red. Momentum trying to shift there. Other signals aren't there yet. Some signals are. But I expect you're going to get the final leg down. And then I think you're going to bottom. And I think we'll see several months of a larger rally. I think these are just dead cat bounces that we've had here. I think we'll get a much larger bear market rally. And it's going to be very deceptive. It's going to convince a lot of people the sell-off is over. Bars turning bearish on some indicators, but again, we have to drop back below the ribbon here. I think we'll see oscillators all begin to turn negative here. I think we'll move into the negative portion of the cloud once again, and this looks very similar to what we had back over here. We're now seeing some signals begin to turn back to bearish. Not all of them are there yet, but again, validating the shift in momentum that we got on that we got on Tuesday and Wednesday. Rejection at resistance. But not all my signals have turned yet. Some of them are still hanging in there. But the day of the top of the counter trend at 74,000, I got topping signals, I got reversal signals. And now we're starting to see some of the trend signals, the swing trend signals begin to change. Very similar to the signals that I got here, very similar to the signals that I got back up at the top. The trend is down, topping signal at the top, just like back over here in 2021, just like back in the summer. The prior peak, there is no bottoming signal. You're probably going to bottom around the 200 and 300 week moving average near key support. As I've said, this 49,000 to 55,000 area, probably just under the 200 week or around that 300 week moving average. If you pierce through this level, you might get a wick bottom here in the weekly time frame. Momentum signals begin to flash, and then now some signals are trying to turn back to bearish. Others are not quite there yet. So again, I'll be watching this closely. See if I get more and more signals turning bearish in the daily time frame, confirming a reversal off of horizontal resistance at the 74 to 76,000 area, which are these lows right in here, previous highs, as I've been showing you on the weekly chart. And if I bring up this weekly chart here, you can see again we're turning off this resistance. Here's the 74,000 area at the April low. Here's the highs going here, the pullback into support, the push higher, and then the topping process. I think you're pushing down into the lower end of this range. We already broke through this area. It's now acting as resistance. Just as we've had the breach of some of these other levels here, the low here, the highs over here, we breached that, and then we took up a low here, and we moved towards the lower end of the trading range at 80,000. Everybody believed it was a bottom. I told you in every single video, 80,000 is not the bottom. People laughed at me and mocked, just as they did back when I called the day of the top and predicted a crash down to 60,000. Oh, gee, I was right. Those people that were laughing, well, they're now crying because either they got liquidated or they got stopped out, giving back much of their gains, or maybe stopped out with a loss, or even worse, they rode Bitcoin down 52%, and the sell-off is likely not over. So we've breached this support as we've breached these other levels of support. There was a break of structure, and the trend changed. I expect we're going to bottom in this area and then get a massive counter trend rally back up. Again, it may only be a 50% retracement. Historically, we've gone 50% or just over it to just under the 61.8 fib, maybe with institutions involved. Now with the Bitcoin ETFs, maybe with the Fed having jumbo rate cuts, as I've been predicting will happen, that being the bait. Possible we get a bigger counter trend, a bigger bear market rally than that. So this is where I'm looking for price to bottom. And then again, looking to close my short positions. The rest of them, I've already begun to do that. I'm closing in layers because I'm managing risk. I want to make sure the trade doesn't turn against me. And then when we go down, I'll be selling more and closing it out. And I'll be looking for the opportunity to go long. Not a recommendation to anybody, buy or sell. I'm just telling you my strategy. Recommendation to buy or sell. But wouldn't it be nice if it was? Because it works. And then I'll be looking to play another main movement back up for the bear market rally. I'm a trader. I trade Bitcoin back and forth. I'm looking to play the main movement. I'm not looking for short-term price fluctuations. That's why I told you I had no interest in these counter trend rallies, short-term price fluctuations. This is catching a falling knife, okay? I'm not interested in buying the dip that keeps on dipping. I'm interested in buying the dip that ends the dipping. Buy the dip that keeps on dipping, you're a dip. That means a person that's not very smart. A polite way of saying that. This is where I think we're going to begin to see a change in the structure again, and I think we'll get the main movement, the shorter term counter trend, but I do think it will be a main movement. Signals have been bearish here, and I've had other signals bearish here since the week after the top. Bars have been red. There is no sign of a bottom yet. I do think you'll form a bottom and get a bottoming signal, or shortly after the bottom you'll see one, maybe something like this over here, something closer to the bottom, like back over here, here a little bit away from the bottom. But I think you're going to see something like that where we get a counter trend that signals do turn back to bullish. Some signals in the weekly time frame will likely turn back to bullish. We're in the positive portion of the channel. We broke that this week after we topped, and signals, bars have been bearish. We've been in the negative region of the channel ever since. I think we'll see a divergence develop on the fear greed index, a crypto fear greed index. I think you're going to see a stop hunt. They're going to push down, hunt out these stops down here. There's going to be a maneuver to drive prices lower, trigger all these stops. The institutions can buy. See major buying on the Bitcoin ETFs. This is what I'm going to be using. I'm not interested in taking a long position and getting stopped out. I'm interested in using the liquidity sweep. When they push prices to trigger all the stops, it's a liquidity sweep, and I'm looking to use that to close the balance of my short positions, and I'll be using that as a entry point for a long position. I'll be looking for opportunities. Again, not a recommendation, anybody buy or sell. Institutions need the herd take the other side of their trade. So they've got to push price down, trigger all these stops, liquidate all these folks, create all this selling so they can buy. And then again, then we'll move in the direction that these people are saying, oh yeah, we're going to do it now. You're likely to push lower and form probably an inverse head and shoulders and get a divergence here on the fear greed index. We had a bearish divergence at the August top and at the October top here. In that topping process, you had one down here at the April low. It's very, very common. You had one back over at the January 2025 peak. Very common to see a divergence set up on the crypto fear greed index. You're going to have a lot of people calling that as a bottom when this liquidation of these long positions takes place. A lot of people are going to be calling this next push down the bottom, and it's, again, likely going to be a local bottom followed by a powerful bear market rally. Now here I've marked those levels of support and resistance. We're turning off of this 74, 76,000 area of resistance. You're likely going to find support down in here somewhere, and then eventually move back to some of these levels of resistance. Again, 97,000. You will likely either get a lower high just below it or a push above it. If you do, then again, this would be an area of interest, and wherever we bottom, I would be looking at the Fibonacci retracements. But if you get above this area, you might try to move to the 78.6 Fibonacci, but historically that has not been the case. But I'm hopeful anyways. So I think we're getting rejection in this area. I think we come down into this area, Could get a drop below 49,000. If you do, you have the 50% retracement of the entire previous bull market at 44,000. My guess is you're going to try to bottom in this area somewhere, and then they're going to run it back up. But I think they're going to stop out these early bulls right here and do a liquidity sweep, and I'm looking to play that liquidity sweep to try to close the rest of my short positions and flip the trade and go long. Not a recommendation, anybody buy or sell Bitcoin. The Bitcoin risk model, the risk line's turning back to bearish as we're dropping below the 50-period moving average. The trend, Bitcoin trend has turned back to bearish. The price of Bitcoin is still in a risk-on environment. If we see a move back into risk-off, as we did back over here, then we can get the next push down, which I think will be the final leg down of the crash to kick off the bear market. Do I think that the rally will end the bear market? No. I think we're going to new highs? No. I think we'll get a powerful rally back up? Yes. I think it will be a bear market rally? Yes. Historically, again, this bear market should go on until October of 2026. That's another 7.5 months from now at least until this bear market ends. You'll get probably a powerful bear market rally and then another significant drop. I expect Bitcoin's going to lose 80 to 90%. Historically, that is what it has done. If we get a dot-com style bust, a bad recession, and a banking crisis, which I think will get all of the above, then we could break the 4-year cycle. The 4-year cycle is still intact now. Mind you, it is still intact, but at some point in the future, it may break. The moon boys are telling us it's already broken, and we have now, this super cycle. And again, another moon boy hoax. It's hoax after hoax after hoax with these people. And the herd's so gullible, they believe this stuff. It's incredible. Nevertheless, I digress. If we get those things happening, this bear market could go on into 2027. Personally, I think that is likely going to be the case. But right now, the 4-year cycle is intact, and it is intact until proven otherwise. So we'll see. I think you're either going to drop down 80 or 90% by the end of 2026, or more likely by June or July of 2027.